But it seems to be that's what the Ohio State pickers are hanging their hat on. That and the fact that they think that the Buckeye defensive line will do enough to disrupt things in the Oregon offense that they'll get some plays. They'll be able to hit Mariota, maybe get Mariota thinking a little bit more about getting hit or the pass rush than he is about looking down the field.
I'll tell you what, man, you hit on a couple of things here. As you're listening to the Sports Fix, J-Rock, Dan Wismar talking, getting warmed up here for tonight's game, and all the talking has been done. You and I will look through a few things and talk about a few players, but absolutely. Real quickly, while you're talking about who's laying on the Buckeyes and the Ducks here, just to show people nationally where, as far as the sports bettors are, nearly 80% of all bets that's come in have been on Oregon, although a lot of that came in after the odds started to drop a bit and the points were shaved down to about 5 there. So a lot of people expecting perhaps the Buckeyes not to cover that. Here's something interesting, and I don't think it's that interesting because it's that amazing, I should say, because it's two high-scoring teams. The over-under on this one, highest it's ever been for a national championship game, just under 75 points is the over line for this one, 74.5 points. So a lot of people expecting the high-scoring battle from both of these teams. Before we go into anything specific, you mentioned Urban Meyer and being an underdog, and Brian here in one of our Facebook pages, brings up just looking at what Urban Meyer's done as an underdog, and you look at just at Ohio State, the 5 major games that he's gone into underneath, all 5 of those, 2 against Michigan State, Wisconsin as well, and then Alabama. He's come out with the victory there, and throughout his career, that's kind of been a known thing for Urban Meyer, and as you said, that's something that a lot of Buckeyes fans are hanging their hat on here today when you look at the guy at the helm of the Buckeyes.
Yeah, and going all the way back to 2006, of course, he was certainly the underdog against the unbeaten Ohio State Buckeyes in that game, and came up with a huge win. So yeah, you're right. His track record as an underdog, his track record in big games, bowl games, and title games is pretty remarkable. So yeah, and again, who knows whether that will mean squat tonight? But
right, he's not playing.
At least
he's not playing.
Yeah, that's right. He will not be out there with a hat on. So yeah, that's right. You've got to. I don't know. I guess in a close game, Jerry, if I had a gun to my head, I'd probably say you've got to give the edge to the team that has the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. He's the most important player on the field, and he's going to make plays. You just hope he doesn't make huge ones. But in a tight game like that, and with the offenses that both teams have, I think you just kind of have. I'm not surprised that Oregon is still favored, and they're favored mostly because of him. So. Because I think if you look down the rest of the rosters, most people would agree that Ohio State probably has superior overall talent, top to bottom among the entire roster, and maybe even on the the starting 24 or whatever, counting kickers and punters and things like that. But he's enough of a difference maker, even with his depleted group of receivers. His line is sort of coming back together after they had some injuries, but. A lot of people think that the fact that he's 3 receivers light, if you count Farrah Brown, the tight end, being out, that's going to be a factor. That and the fact that the Buckeyes have picked off 24 passes this year and among the league leaders in that category, even though Mariota has only thrown 3 picks, and they've only turned the ball over 10 times total all season. I don't think you can necessarily count on the Buckeyes to win the turnover battle just because Oregon doesn't do that. So that's going to be something to really watch. If you can get up 1 or 2 in the turnover margin in this game, that could be even more important than it is in any other football game.
Yeah, that'll be huge. Just as we said, Urban Meyer, the first key for Ohio State, looking to become the second coach in college football history to win national titles at 2 schools. You bring up Mariota. He's looking to become the 7th Heisman Trophy winner since '96 to win the national title. Follow up what Jameis Winston did last year. He has thrown for over 10,000 yards in his career, 103 touchdowns to just 13 interceptions while winning 35 games. The thing is, as you mentioned there, and we'll get to this now, is the depleted core. Now, obviously, much like, I mean, you would be foolhardy to just, oh, well, he's missing guys. Look, last I checked, Ohio State's missing a couple of quarterbacks too, and here they sit in the national title game. So realize that a squad like this goes deep at every position, and they have guys next man up and all of that, but you're missing Allen, who goes down in the Rose Bowl, which was bad enough, your second leading catcher. Then you lose Carrington here after he fails a test for marijuana, and I'll tell you what, I stuck up for the kid. Not that, you know, that it's my place to do it. Just some conversations I had over the weekend, because people just flaming this kid, and I'm like, really? Is it that amazing that a college kid smoked pot? Like, I'm just saying, man, like, I find that not one of the most unbelievable things I've ever heard in my life. I get it, he had a responsibility, but people were just flaming that kid, and I'm like, man, last I checked, man, well, I guess some of them do get paid to play at the college level, but technically they're not supposed to, and they are still kids. Like, I mean, hey, you made a mistake and you'll learn from it, but I'm like, man, the kid didn't exactly, you know, get accused of rape, I mean, or go rob anybody or anything like that. I mean, I get it. He was a college kid that failed a drug test, but, you know, you'd have thought that he was the son of Sam there, but it hurts his team. Big game here, because as you said, now you're down 3 of your top targets. Mariota's got to find new guys to deliver that ball to.
Yeah, that's right, Darren. You know, it's not like Darren Carrington knocked over a 7-11, like you say. He got accused, found guilty of using illegal drugs, just like the Buckeyes preseason All Big Ten defensive end Noah Spence tested positive for drugs and ended up sitting out the entire season. So, you know, it happens and it's regrettable, but you don't want to, kids' picture's not on the post office wall. So, you know, let's put it in perspective.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean. But losing Carrington there, I mean, obviously going to tweak the attack here, as you said. Now down several guys, but that's why if you've got the pedigree that Mariota does, that's what you do. You go out there and you find a way to win one more game and continue to add to your legacy here. Meanwhile, on the other side, and you know what, earlier, somebody had asked me what I thought about Braxton Miller, and you know, I'm like, man, my gut tells, because that came up a lot here this week. But the Buckeyes in the opposite place with all the different quarterbacks and all the things here this year. What does your gut tell you? Going off the subject for a minute, since I threw Braxton Miller's name out there. I mean, I said at the beginning of the show, I can't see a scenario, even though it's easy to go, oh, the guy wants to play, he's going to go somewhere else and blah, blah, blah. That's a lot of work to reinvest, and he's in such a precarious position where who knows what he's even going to be able to do going forward. I don't see why he would upset the apple cart as far as dealing with the training staff that has all your information. They know everything about you. I know somebody else can learn, but these guys know you. They've worked with you. I think if you're Braxton Meyer, the best chance for me to get myself back on the football field and in the NFL would be to stay with the group of people that are helping get me back out there. But do you think that there's some reality here that he may be hitting the road?
Well, I think if he is going to do that, nobody knows that. In other words, I would believe that the rumors might be, true if there was any evidence that they were true. If there was anything other than pure speculation, I haven't seen anything other than pure speculation. What I do see is a coach in Meyer who has said Braxton Miller's starting quarterback if he's physically able in the spring and in the summer and in the fall. And I see Braxton Miller on the sidelines with his teammates, looking like a member of this football team. If he was absent, if he was AWOL or something, and he wasn't in evidence at practices and on the sidelines at games, then I might be thinking that something would be up. But we've had no reason to think that anything is up, other than just people thinking, "Wow, they sure do have a lot of quarterbacks there. Yeah. I wonder what's going to happen." So I don't know. I will believe what Meyer says. He said, "I have talked with Braxton, and I believe he's going to, be with us next season." So. In the absence of evidence to the contrary, I just have to believe that that's the case. So, the nice thing is that Buckeye fans, don't have to worry about that.
Right.
Braxton has graduated. Braxton can go and play anywhere he wants as long as the school can invent a major for him that Ohio State doesn't have. That's the sort of the technicality that that allows Wisconsin to bring in guys from other schools at the drop of a hat.
That's how that would work? The school that took him would simply – that's the loophole that they would use there?
Yeah, he wants to go – he's graduated. He wants to go to graduate school, and the school he's transferring to has a major that he wants to major in that his current school does not have. That's how they get around this. All you really need to do is say, make something up. Not every school has a master's degree in every single thing. So, yeah, that's how they do that. And
he's going to major in
really,
Khalifa.
Yeah, right. It's winked at. It's winked at by the NCAA because it's just it's a cover to allow the guy to transfer and not sit out a season. That's what Russell Wilson did, and that's what Wisconsin's done a couple different times with players, and you see it from time to time. But anyway, no, I honestly don't think Braxton's going anywhere. I think they'll come into fall camp. I have a belief that it's going to be very hard for Braxton to get back to 100%. Maybe he can help this team out in some other way besides being the starting quarterback. But I think his legacy is such that he's a one touchdown away from tying the all-time record for touchdowns accounted for, rushing and passing, for Ohio State University. I think he probably wants to break some of those records that he's on the verge of breaking. And if he were the starter for the whole season next year, he would shatter them and put some real distance between him and second place. But I think there's something about that, and I think he's concerned about his legacy as an Ohio State football player and doesn't want the fan base to turn on him if he looks like a traitor or something. I just think it's a long shot that he will go someplace else, and I think it might even be a longer shot that he will have a successful, healthy, 13-game season here or anywhere, just because it's so hard to come back from 2 labrum surgeries on the same arm, let alone a quarterback's throwing arm.
You just took the words out of my mouth as I was going to finish that. I truly don't believe that I think the odds are very long. I'm not going to say I don't believe he comes back, but I believe the odds are extremely long, and I think they're much longer than people are thinking. I think these people just think it's a foregone conclusion that this kid wants to play football somewhere. Yeah, he wants to play. He wants to be able to play, period, and this is still the kind of thing that can happen again and can happen at any time. And I think, too, like you just mentioned, the risk of that also – with the why leave? I mean, I think that I just don't see it. I'm with you, man. I think there's a lot of question marks, and I just think it's so far from me, even close to a definite, that he ever plays football again when the big story is written on this, that I think that I just think it's a big leap to assume that he would want to pick up.
Right. And the other thing, if we have learned anything at all from the 2014 football season, it's that you can't have too many good quarterbacks at Ohio State.
Many quarterbacks.
Number one, Meyer's offense is hard on them. Let's face it. They run a lot. They take a lot of shots. They're in on the distribution on every play, and they take a lot of hits. You've got to be durable, and let's face it. We went through 3 quarterbacks, so maybe when Urban has 6 on his roster next fall, maybe he'll feel secure. But like I
Braxton said that last year.
That's what we've learned this year. You can't have too many good ones.
Braxton said that last year at the end of the season, man. He said, hey, we have running backs. We recruit them, and they're on scholarship and everything, believe it or not, man. We actually we have some of those guys here because Urban's offenses do love to run those running backs through the grinder. That's for sure. But
that's true. And I think now we finally put to rest that old canard that other teams used to use against Urban Meyer, that, he's never had a 1,000-yard running back. They used to use that against Ohio State in running back recruiting. Well, now that he's put, Carlos Hyde and Ezekiel Elliott back-to-back, well over 1,000 yards, if not over 1,500 yards in a season, I don't think they're going to be able to use that one against Urban Meyer on the recruiting trail any longer.
No, absolutely not. And we'll see with all of that. That's somewhere else to go. You're listening to the Sports Fix. J-Rock, Dan Wismar talking here leading up to the Buckeyes tonight and Oregon Ducks championship game. And again, with Braxton Miller, that is so far in the future, although it's a little different for us to talk about it. I just got to say, got to be an interesting, I'm trying to imagine myself when I was 20, 21, 22. Man, the porn star recruiting me to her school would be, if nothing else, it would be quite the ego boost for sure. I'm thinking that makes you the